very proud because before I started this job right here, I was homeless. I used to sleep under the bridge, and most of the streets that I'm cleaning up now, that's the streets that I used to sleep on. I'm thankful that they gave me opportunity. You know, it's changed my life tremendously. Like I said, I was homeless. You know, now I'm in the process of looking for a house to buy. Through this program, you know, I came over my addiction. Man, I'm so thankful. You know, I thank the staff at Good Source for giving me the opportunity, man. They helped me out tremendously. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Good Source staff and the city of Orlando. The most rewarding part of this job is getting up every day and trying to keep Orlando beautiful, you know, doing my part and making sure the community and the residents are happy with their areas are getting cleaned up, the streets are getting cleaned up.
Good afternoon and welcome to the September 17th meeting of the Orlando City Council. We're going to begin today's proceedings with the invocation offered by Pastor Ken Green, Prince of Peace Lutheran Church. Prince of Peace has been serving people of East Orlando for, well, since 1957, so they're older than I am, one of the few things these days. Pastor Green leads a diverse multicultural congregation that is committed to the Gateway Orlando community. Their signature outreach ministries are their food pantry, which distributes 15,000 pounds of food. They're a partner in education with a number of OCPS elementary schools, providing everything from backpacks to school supplies, Thanksgiving meals, Christmas gifts, support, and prayers. They have a Peace Center for Life, which offers ESOL classes to hundreds who are new to our community, and the Florida Gold Seal accredited Prince of Peace Preschool and Child Development Center. Pastor Green is fondly known, and he said everybody here can refer to him as PK. In the halls of the Prince of Peace, and he firmly believes that the 5 minutes you give someone may make an eternity of difference. Please join me. You may stand or remain seated, and Commissioner Sheehan will lead the pledge after the invocation.
I invite you to pray with me. Gracious Lord, we thank you for your goodness and your love. Your mercies are new every morning. Your blessings abound far beyond what we could ever imagine or measure. We pray that you would be with those people who are affected by Hurricane Florence in North Carolina and South Carolina, especially at this time. Our hearts go out to them. We also pray for your wisdom for our city commission and our mayor, that you would bless them in their work as they seek to better our community and help us to serve others. We entrust this meeting into your hands, and I offer this prayer in the personal name of my Lord, respecting all people of faith and even those who claim none. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, PK. Okay, Madam Clerk, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Would you call the roll and make a determination of quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Here.
Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan. Here. Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Ings.
Here.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum with all members present.
Thank you. I'm trying to get used to you being on this side and not that side. We have just moved back into council chambers after being temporarily housed down on the first floor for 4 or 5 months, and the clerk used to sit on this side and the city attorney used to sit on that side, so it's just taken a little while for us to get used to which way to look. Okay, first order of business is consideration of the agenda review and budget meetings and city council meetings from September the 4th. Motion by Commissioner Ings, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, we haven't had proclamations in a while since we were in our temporary chambers. So, Marcia, you are up with Hunger Action Month.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer, and good afternoon, commissioners and guests that are here and definitely our constituents. It is a pleasure today to introduce to you something that you have been involved in, all of you I know, throughout the year, and that is working in partnership with Second Harvest Food Bank, which is a partnership of many organizations led by Second Harvest. Actually, 550 food pantries across Central Florida are supported and engaged with the Second Harvest food pantry process. It's hard to believe that 1 in 6 Central Floridians are food insecure, but it is true, and through Second Harvest Food Bank and others, we are making that a difference in Central Florida. It is a pleasure today to introduce Michelle Byington, who is the board chair of Second Harvest Food Bank, who will share with you some details about what they're doing for Hunger Action Month. Michelle is joined by 3 other members of the Second Harvest Food Bank team. Kelly Quintera, who is the Director of Advocacy, is here, along with Bree Rios, the event specialist, and a position that I'm very fond of, and I told her I like her job, and that's Erica Spence, who is the storyteller for Second Harvest Food Bank. So it is a pleasure at this time to introduce Michelle, who will come up and just share some information about the importance of this proclamation before you read it, Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you for having us today, and thank you for this proclamation. Here in September, I want to thank you too. You have one of our food banks out there in our community, like the Prince of Peace Church giving out 15,000 pounds of food. The food bank last year gave out 70 million pounds of food. And that's a scary number, but 1 in 6 of our neighbors is in need this very day for food, and they're insecure of where their next meal is coming from. So without the help of our partners, many of our neighbors would be in worse shape. So thank you for having us today. I urge all of you to go to our website. It's feedhopenow.org, feedhopenow.org. I started to stumble there. And take the meal challenge. There's a meal challenge for the month of September. All of you can jump in with us on our Facebook page and help feed our neighbors. One of our mission statements is to inspire and engage our community, because we know as individuals we can't change what's going on in our world, but engaging and inspiring our community can make a difference. So thank you guys for being there. Check out our website and do take the meal challenge. It'll help everybody in our community.
Thank you, and I have a proclamation from the City of Orlando. Whereas hunger and poverty are issues of great concern in the City of Orlando and throughout the United States, and whereas the City of Orlando is committed to working with Second Harvest Food Bank to educate our residents about the role and importance of food banks in addressing hunger and raise awareness of the need to devote more resources and attention to hunger issues. And whereas more than 48,000 individuals in Central Florida rely on food provided by the members of Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida each day, and whereas Food banks across the country host numerous events throughout the month of September that bring awareness and attention to the problem of food insecurity while encouraging involvement in efforts to end hunger in our local communities. And whereas as a city for everyone, Orlando has a long history of establishing partnerships which have supported the development of programs and organizations that are built on the foundation of compassion and that foster compassion in our city. Now, therefore, I, Buddy Dyer, Mayor of the City of Orlando, hereby do proclaim the month of September 2018 as Hunger Action Month in the City of Orlando. Okay, I'm going to go right into the mayor's update. And I see a lot of faces that look young and like they haven't been to a city commission meeting before. And since school has started again, I'm guessing we have a number of students that are here today. So if you're a student from Valencia or UCF or anywhere else and are attending a meeting, would you please stand?
All right.
Thank you for being here today, and I hope your civic engagement, you'll learn a little bit today about your city government. Okay, mayor's update. We are fortunate that we haven't experienced a hurricane yet this year, but the season is still young, and we know the damage and destruction that hurricanes can do, so we're all praying for and giving our thoughts to those that are being affected by Hurricane Florence. People have asked what they can do beyond thoughts and prayers. If you're making a monetary donation, we encourage you to do one of the national organizations, either the National American Red Cross, Harvest Hope Food Bank, or the Salvation Army. And know that we have let the local authorities in South Carolina and North Carolina know that we stand ready to send personnel if asked. Last week, Commissioner Ortiz, Commissioner Stewart, and I helped to kick off Hispanic Heritage Month at Lou Gardens with the first floor under construction. A lot of events that we normally have in the Rotunda are being hosted in other places. The event featured Latin food and music, and the highlight was the recognition to Grammy Award-winning Olga Tanyon. So Ortiz, right, Olga Tanyon. She does have Ortiz as a last name, okay, for her great career, and she raised her kids here. So I want to thank the steering committee that was made up of city employees, Luis, Georgina, Anna, Marilee, Lottie, and Fina for their great job in helping make that a successful event. Today, we had a great workshop conducted by Chris Castro, and on today's agenda, we have a resolution to accept the 2018 Greenworks Sustainability Community Action Plan. Greenworks is 10 years old now, so we wanted to update our plan and engage the community. I think that was the most important aspect, was that all of the stakeholders that came together to come up with great new ideas and strategies that we'll be able to implement over the next 3 to 10 years. I know that a number of the participants that helped to create this plan are here with us today, so if you would stand up, we would like to thank you for your work. We had an exciting announcement last week that I unfortunately was not in town for. I was attending Mr. DeVos's funeral in Michigan, but we were able to announce that Orlando will be the home of the 2019 Major League Soccer All-Star Game. And that goes in conjunction with being the 2019 NFL Pro Bowl game. So of the 4 Major League sports, we have 2 of them hosting their All-Star games right here in Orlando. And in addition to that, a couple of weeks ago, we announced that we would have the Monster Jam World Finals here. So that is the the World Series, World Championship of monster trucks. So that's a really big deal too. I know people are smiling out there, but the economic impact of that particular event cannot be understated, similar to WrestleMania. So that continues to build on the legacy of events that we've been able to host because of the investment that we have made in our venues. Later this week, we'll be celebrating the 10-year anniversary of our Orlando Main Street program with a Main Street Award ceremony, and I couldn't be more proud of that program. And just one item of note that I will mention is item B3, B4, and ordinance number 1. Our ordinance on first read number 3 relates to our bike share program and our trail network and adding bike lanes, opening additional areas for us to be able to bike, and that's one of the more important things that we're doing in terms of making alternative means of transportation available in our city. So with that, we will go to the consent agenda, and the consent agenda is a number of items acted upon through a single vote of council. We give each of our commissioners an opportunity to comment on the consent agenda and quickly update you on items from their commission districts. I will mention that at agenda review, we moved one item from the consent agenda to new business at the request of Commissioner Gray, so we will hear one of the items off the MPB list at new business at his request. Okay, Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor. Today, of course, is on item A2 is the Greenworks Community Action Plan, and we've been very active in District 4 on many of these things that are happening. The Constitution Green, saving the green space there, the community gardens at Festival Park, Colonial Town, Reese Terrace, and Broadway United Methodist Church, the Pink Ribbon Garden for breast cancer survivors, front yard gardening, working with the planning department, urban chickens, reducing the carbon footprint, and also sustainable food, urban bike trails with the Orlando Urban Trail composters and cisterns with Mills 50. We've been doing those for many, many years. And all of these happen in partnership with planning, transportation, solid waste, and facilities, in addition to the Mayor's Neighborhood Matching Grant. And I'm very glad that we've produced this plan with a lot of community input. Very proud that a lot of the things we've been working on for many, many years are part of this plan, and I'm very, very pleased to support it today. Also on the agenda today, on item C10, Tori. This is a new restaurant that's going to be locating in Mills 50. It's been an abandoned site, frequently vandalized. It's really been an eyesore in the area. This is opening a restaurant to the street in an area that's really turned the back on Mills Avenue, and I really think this is going to be transformational. So we've had a lot of redevelopment on the northern part by Virginia. This is exciting to see this redevelopment moving towards Colonial. A lot of small businesses moving in, so delighted to see that. Facade grant move forward. And that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. I'm excited to talk about the partnership and collaboration that I've had with Second Harvest Food Bank. During my tenure, I think I've contributed about $35,000 and towards helping with food insecurities there in District 5, and I greatly thank you for your partnership, because with that $35,000, it equaled out to almost $250,000, and I think we've given away about close to 20,000 tons of food there in District 5. So I really appreciate your partnership, and you'll be seeing me this. I think our budget cycle starts again in October, and I'll be doing my $10,000 contribution, and I know you'll be matching it. So thank you so much. On Wednesday, something very important that's on the agenda is that District 5 will be getting a new executive aide, Mrs. Fayola Douglin, and I'd like to thank Denise for assisting me with that. We had over 125 applicants to be a staffer here in District 5. And Fayola was executive staffer for Gold Saxman for 10 years up in New York. And she has been a school teacher. She's a math teacher with OCPS, and she wanted to do some more work with the city and throughout District 5. So I'm excited to bring her on board. Tanika is now doing work over at our Valencia UCF campus with community outreach with the community stakeholders there in Paramore. So we lost a great aide and we've gained another one. So that is amazing. On Wednesday, September 5th, as Mayor Dyer mentioned, the big announcement with the Monster Truck World Series, the Finals XX. As he stated about the economic stimulus that comes to the city of Orlando with heads and beds and restaurants, I think what's really important is the stimulation around the Camp World Stadium when it comes to the homeowners and different organizations being able to park cars for $50 a shot. That really makes a difference there in that area. And some of the small restaurants and businesses having over close to 60, 70,000 people there in that area. So I'd like to thank our venues team there, have done a really amazing job. I think this year alone they've doubled the events that they have brought to the District 5 downtown and Camp World Stadium. Just the other night, Saturday night, they had a sold-out arena there at Amway. When it came to minority inclusion, they had Wildin' Out, something similar you see on Nickelodeon, but it was a little different than the Nickelodeon version, but it was really nice. On Wednesday, September the 12th, I'd like to thank House Representative Bruce Antone and Commissioner Larry Mills that the mayor appointed to the OUC board and we approved here. He's been doing a phenomenal job trying to make sure that those on the west side of Orlando know about all the conservational plans that OUC have, water plans, energy plans, and it was very interactive dinner meeting. The food was supplied by Jesse's Diner. That is a new African-American restaurant that has opened up there in the Colonial Westmoreland corner. They have been in the area for decades, and they moved out of a little building there on Church Street, and now I think they have a restaurant that has the capacity to fill about 150 diners. On September 15th, I'd like to thank Walter Hawkins and his team. Thank you. We had our local fraternities and sororities, about 25 to 30 health and wellness vendors. We had our fire department there. Thank you, Chief Williams. We also had our neighborhood watch there also. Thank you, Chief Mina. It was well attended. There was a lot of resources there. It was very, the children and their families came out to find out about resources. I did not know Walter can Zumba, but he's a great Zumba dancer. So it was really nice. I look forward to more of those going throughout District 5 when it comes to health and wellness. And last but not least, on Friday, September the 7th, we had our District 5 rollout for our National Night Off, that kickoff that will be happening, I think, October the 2nd. October the 2nd. It was well attended. We had about 300 residents that converged there on the Tinker Field. We had music, activities, vendors. Our guys and girls in blue was so very engaged with our youth and our seniors there in the community. They prepared all the food for us. We had our horse brigade out. The children really loved that and enjoyed that. They were able to meet and greet, and all the officers that were there on the horses were all female, so girl power rocked that night. And with that, and I like to say, earlier this morning there were a few attendees from my Greenworks department and task force, and now there's more. And I am so excited to see the diversity. Mary did a great job with choosing that task force and making sure that the whole community from the east to the west to the north side was engaged. And it's a great, great plan. As Chris stated, this is not the all in all. It's a constant journey, but I'm proud of the product and the action plan that we're putting out to the community.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ings.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say that
Ed, what do you think's happening?
Commissioner Gray?
Can y'all turn off your mic?
Yep.
All right, thank you. So,
Darn, that didn't work.
now I got a lot for you, Mayor.
Mayor, I told you we need a gong.
I got a lot for you. Friday, September 20th, I hosted my Red Tie Celebrity Golf Extravaganza event, and this was held at the pristine Rosen Shingle Creek Golf Club. We had over 130 golfers that participated, including former NFL and NBA celebrities. Approximately 160 people attended our awards luncheon. And at that luncheon, we presented the Robert Billingsley Humanitarian Award. And this year's recipient was Attorney Benjamin Crump. And Attorney Benjamin Crump was not available at the event. He was in California attending a black males luncheon featuring Stevie Wonder. We had the Star Spangled Banner that was sang by Whitney Lynn, and Whitney Lynn is the wife of one of our Orlando police officers. And our guest speakers were Rosie Moore, Mrs. Windermere and Mrs. Michigan International, and president and founder of the Gift of Life charity. Also, N.Y. Nathiri of Zora Neale Hurston Festival was our speaker who talked about the festival in Eatonville coming up in January. On Tuesday, September 11th, I attended the OFD September 11th Remembrance Ceremony and Candlelight Vigil that was held at the Fire Station 1 at 78 West Central Boulevard. Thank you, Chief Roderick Williams. And also in attendance was Mayor Buddy Dyer and Commissioner Robert Stewart. And Wednesday, September 12th, I was the guest speaker at the Rolling Hills Elementary School National Elementary Honor Society. There were 11 inductees, 4th and 5th graders. The parents were proud of their children, as well as the students and faculty and staff there at Rolling Hills Elementary. And on Thursday, I hosted the OUC Fall into Savings event at the Dr. James R. Smith Center. There were over 100 residents in attendance to learn about energy savings and other resources available to assist in keeping the home energy efficiency. On Friday the 14th, I attended the 2018 POW MIA recognition ceremony, Mayor Dyer and his Veterans Committee. This was held at the Beardall Senior Center, and Commissioner Gray was also in attendance there. And on Saturday, September 15th, I attended the Broadway Babies, the Gift of Life's 5th Annual Black Tie Affair. This was held at the Showcase in Winter Garden, 12 5100 West Colonial Drive. Rosie Moore, founder and CEO of the Gift of Life. I presented a proclamation on behalf of Mayor Dyer and myself to this event. I would also like to say at the Red Tie Celebrity Golf event, Bo Jarrell, who retired from the Tampa Bay Bucks, played in our golf tournament in 2017, and 3 months after he played in our event, he passed away. And so this year, 2018, we paid tribute to Bo Jarrell for his life.
And that's what's happening in District 6.
Thank you, Ed.
One more try.
So we paid tribute to his wife and family and friends, and we presented a collage of Bo Jarrell's as he played in the Red Tie event, and also some other pictures that he had of his family. And we also presented him the Red Tie Bo Jarrell Champion Award. And I thought that was very important for us to show our love and support for a person. We were in our 8th year at the Red Tie. Bo was in every event of Red Tie, and he enjoyed playing in our event. Also, Kevin Edmonds, I'd like to thank you. After several years of dialogue and negotiation, the city has reached an agreement with Orange County government regarding the improvements to Raleigh Street. So this is going to be huge because of the flooding issue along there and also the traffic pattern itself. So we're looking for improvements along Raleigh Street. The proposed agreement will be on the October 8th City Council agenda. We do have some visitors here today from our public, and many of them will be speaking at general appearances about the B&H Police Supply Store that's at 909 South Goldwyn Avenue. I did have an opportunity to speak with the owner, Matt Kennedy. The B&H Supply Store is actually headquartered in Merritt Island, and he was looking for a place to have a store here in Orlando that was close to the jail and provide police supply materials, guns, etc. to police officers, correctional officers, private security, TSA officers, and I wanted to make sure that the public that's here today kind of understand some of the efforts that we're having to deal with concerning this situation. And so Mike Rhodes helped me, and he compiled the following with regards to neighborhood concerns surrounding the new police supply store located at 909 South Goldwyn Avenue. And of course, the entire property is owned by Ahmed Nathmi, who purchased the property in 1986. And the property has hosted a variety of uses, but has been known mostly for neighborhood convenience store, and is located in the corner of the tenant space there at the southeast corner of Orange Center Boulevard and Columbia Street. The property is zone AC-1/SP. AC1 zoning permits light retail, which includes a wide variety of retail uses, from antique shops to plant nurseries to light equipment rentals. The SP indicates that it is within the special plan area, in this case, the Washington Shores Special Plan. The activity center districts are intended to provide for concentrated areas of community serving commercial, office, residential, recreational, and cultural facilities at higher intensities than in surrounding neighborhoods. Although some community activity centers may be composed of a single type of use, a mixture of land uses is specifically encouraged. Some of our special plan areas around the city identified discouraged or prohibited uses. This plan does not detail any discouraged or prohibited uses, but addresses a range of neighborhood aesthetic concerns. One note, the Florida legislature has significantly and emphatically pre-exempted local government regulation from regards to firearms, especially Section 790.33 Florida statutes that provides that the legislature is occupying the whole field of regulation of firearms, including the purchase, sale, transfer, taxation, manufacture, ownership, possession, storage, and transportation of firearms. In a July 2016 review of the statute, the city attorney advised that, among other things, the legislature determined that in the event local governments should attempt to adopt regulation in this field, that the ordinance is null and void. And the courts are instructed to permanently enjoin local governments from enforcing the ordinance. And if a court determines that the local government knowingly and willfully regulated guns, the court shall assess a civil fine up to $5,000 against the elected or appointed local government official under whose jurisdiction the preemption occurred. Public funds may not be used to defend any person found to have knowingly and willfully violated the preemption. Any person knowingly and willingly violating the preemption is subject to termination or being removed from office by the governor. Any person or organization adversely affected by the local government's effort to regulate firearms can sue the local government and recover damages of up to $100,000 in addition to attorney's fees. The city attorney has opined that land use regulation contemplated would have to extend to all light retail uses. Only the Florida legislature or the people of Florida, by way of a constitutional amendment, are able to change this statute. The origins of this statute preemption date back to 1987. The Washington Shores Special Plan could be amended to address discouraged or prohibited uses. However, any reference to firearms, such as that which is contemplated by 790.33, would be illegal. Efforts to limit or prohibit any uses would require a legislative finding on the part of the city that is supported by analysis as to the impact of such uses and the necessity of any special regulation or prohibition. And to that end, on Wednesday, for information purposes, September 19th, there is a 2018 gun store meeting. I had requested that this meeting be open to the public. It was organized by State Representative Bruce Anton and Mike Rhodes of Zoning and Business Permitting will be there. Deputy Chief Anzueto would be there to talk about security and policing, and we will all answer any questions. This meeting is going to be held at the El Claudia Allen Center at 1840 Mabel Butler Avenue in Orlando. And again, the date is September 19th, and the time is from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So I would encourage all of you all to come out to that meeting as well. And I would also encourage you to speak before council at our general appearances. So you do have that opportunity to do that. Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. I think in light of the amount on the agenda, I will yield my time to Commissioner Ortiz. Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz.
You know, I think I'm going to do the same thing. Go ahead. Let's pass it on.
Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you.
I'm not. I like you, but I don't like you that much. I've got a couple of quick things, and I will run through them quickly. I appreciate it. One thing I want to mention, the mayor and I had a chance, and along with Commissioner Ortiz, to spend some time with Frez Oquindo. Frez is boxing in 2 weeks for the World Heavyweight Championship title in Europe. Really excited about that. He's from Puerto Rico, lives in Chicago, moves his training down here to Orlando, and the battle of the fight is in Germany. So you can imagine we're now part of this international touch among everybody in the community. I want to say thanks to Second Harvest Food Bank and the work that they do here. It's not possible that the work that I do at the Christian Service Center would be done without the work of the work of the Second Harvest Food Bank. Just a couple of quick things, but I want to mention one thing. National Night Out's coming up on October 2nd. Zombie-toberfest is coming up in Audubon Park on October 6th. And then the Jazz Fest is coming up on November 3rd. Put those on your calendars, if you will. On the agenda, those are important things I'd like to mention. B6 has some items, and we're making some repairs to some lift stations. 3 of those are in actually District 3, Spring Lake, Rosemont, and Silver Star. So look for some of that work coming up. It will improve our capacity over there. I want to say thanks to Chris, if he's around, for the about the work on the there he is, on the Greenworks plan. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your devotion and for your passion. You get all of us excited about it. So thank you very much. Item A3, we have 3 new members that we're approving today from District 3 on the agenda. I mention it every time I get a chance to, because we run our city with volunteers that are members of our city, and we can't do it without them. So we appreciate them: Kathleen Shannon, Andrick Lewis, and Kevin Dunleavy, who are serving again for us on city boards. And Mayor, I won't go through the rest of it. That's all I've got, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Ortiz. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, anybody that was just here for consent agenda might want to take this opportunity to make a hasty exit, if you so desire.
I'll let the students go.
Okay, if there's no objection from council, I'm going to go a little bit out of order and take up hearings number 1, which is a public hearing with respect to the preliminary budget of the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority for fiscal year 2018-19. And I'll now open the public hearing with respect to the preliminary budget of the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority for fiscal year 2018-19. I want to recognize the GO representatives that we have here: Executive Director Phil Brown, CFO Kathleen Sharman. I don't see the chairman in attendance, so I think you guys can probably hold down the fort, right? On August the 15th, the GOA board adopted a resolution approving its preliminary budget for fiscal year 2018-19, commencing on October the 1st, 2018, and ending September 30th, 2019. The preliminary budget for the Orlando International Airport is $566,910,000. The preliminary budget for the Orlando Executive Airport is $3,791,180.12. I'm kidding about the 12 cents. In accordance with Section 12 of our city charter, GOA has submitted the preliminary budget to City Council for review during a public hearing. This hearing is informational. City Council will not be taking any action. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify related to the GOA budget? Seeing none, I will close the hearing, and thank you, Phil and Kathleen, for being here. We'll move back in the order of the agenda, which brings us Without objection, we'll recess the city council meeting and convene the CRA meeting. Let's see, Thomas, I think I can do these first couple, which are meeting minutes. First item is accepting CRA Advisory Board minutes from July 25th. Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Second is August 6th CRA meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Third is DDB CRA Advisory Board budget workshop meetings from August 15th. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, number 4 is the funding agreement with the Downtown Orlando Inc. or Downtown Orlando Partnership. Thomas?
All right, thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. As the Mayor was talking, all the balance of these items are all pertinent to the fiscal year 18-19 budget. All details remain unchanged from when we shared the budget detailed in briefings with you 2 weeks ago. And so, as Mayor said, approving Downtown Orlando Incorporated, which does business as Downtown Orlando Partnership funding agreement. As we know, the mission of this great organization is to enhance business and community relationships through initiatives and events. They have many, many events. Some of their better-known annual events are Golden Brick Awards, State of Downtown, Lunch and Learn, as well as others. This funding agreement proposes various benchmarks for DOP, including a continuation of the Third Thursday franchise and assisting in when we reopen the new Downtown Orlando Information Center, and more to come about that later. The funding amount remains unchanged at $25,000 from last year. The CRA Advisory Board recommends approval, and staff is requesting your approval today.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, number 5, homeless outreach.
All right, number 5 is approving homeless outreach funding agreement. As you're aware, for several years, the Healthcare Center for the Homeless has conducted homeless outreach services in the downtown area through what we call 2 outreach specialists, or red shirts, if you will. The CRA is desirous of continuing this relationship. As it was in previous years, the total funding for these 2 outreach specialists is just over $106,000, with the CRA funding just over $61,050 of that, HSN funding $35,000, and HCCH funding the balance. Again, the Advisory Board recommends approval, and staff is requesting approval of the homeless outreach funding agreement, subject to review and approval of the City Attorney's Office, and authorize execution of the agreement by the Chair and the Executive Director.
Which one are you? Commissioner?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, let's do seniors first.
Number 6, approving the Seniors First Incorporated agreement, which of course is the initiative that we know of as Senior Trans. This provides transportation to seniors in 12 downtown senior complexes and high-rises. The amount this year is slightly a very modest increase of just over $1,015 on an annual basis, for a total of $46,861.78. Again, the CRA Advisory Board recommends approval, and staff is requesting approval of the agreement for a period of October 1, 2018 to September 30, 2019, for up to an amount of $46,861.78, subject to review and approval by the City Attorney's Office, and authorization of execution of the agreement by the Chair and the Executive Director.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 7.
Number 7 is approving fiscal year 18-19 Downtown Development Board and Community Redevelopment Agency cost share agreement. This agreement simply outlines the terms under which the DDB and the CRA allocate and share administrative costs. And again, the Advisory Board recommends approval, and staff is requesting approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 8.
And finally, number 8, approving a fiscal year 18-19 city services agreement between the City of Orlando and the Community Redevelopment Agency. This agreement outlines the terms under which the city provides both administrative and professional services to the CRA in pursuit of the implementation of the Community Redevelopment Area Plan. And once again, the CRA Advisory Board recommends approval, and staff is requesting approval of the City Services Agreement for fiscal year 18-19 between the City of Orlando and the Community Redevelopment Agency, and authorize the Chair and Executive Director to execute the agreement, subject to review and approval by the City Attorney's Office.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Further business, Thomas?
There's none. Thank you, Mayor.
We will adjourn the CRA meeting, and we will convene the Neighborhood Improvement District Board of Directors meeting. Let's see. First item is the fiscal year 2018-2019 City Services Agreement between the City of Orlando and the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. This item is just the agreement that we have for city services between the City of Orlando and the South Downtown NID. This helps us with administrative and professional funds. The NID Advisory Board recommended approval of this, and we are seeking approval by you.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2.
The number 2 item that we have for you is an agreement between the NID and the South Downtown Main Street. As we work together with the Main Street organization, we are looking at ways that we can help each other achieve the overall objectives and goals of the SODO district. As part of that effort, we are putting together an agreement with the Main Street organization to provide $30,000 to specifically work on projects with them that helps achieve both of the goals and objectives. The NID Advisory Board approved this item and is looking for approval by you as well.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so the motion carries. Further business to come before the
There is none.
board.
Thank you, Mayor.
Then we will stand adjourned. We will reconvene without objection in the City Council meeting. New business. This is item number 9 from the MPB board minutes, the Randall Park cell tower that Commissioner Gray asked us to bring to new business rather than being heard at the consent agenda. Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to talk about this one with the rest of the council because I think despite the MPB's recommendation to approve, in my opinion, this decision was not one of their better ones. So I'd like to share a few things with the council and then make a recommendation. Ed, if you'd be kind enough, just wanted to set the table for everybody here because you may not be familiar with Randall Park. I've got a series of 3 or 4 slides. Thanks, Ed. This is, if you could see, the southeast part of the town. To the north is the beach line. To the right side of the screen or to the east is the 417, and the bottom of the picture is Dowden Road. So this is in the southwest corner of the beach line and 417. You can see there is one way in and one way out at the present time down from Dowden. It comes up through Dowden past Sunblaze Elementary and then into the Randall Park subdivision. This is basically built out. There are a few lots in the very back, but it is basically a built-out subdivision. And this home builder is going to go across the 417 to the east, or to the right is the picture, and build Starwood, is what you know, which will also be in the city. We're going to go to the next picture in a second. Before we do, well, let's go to the second picture. Thanks, Ed. No, I just want to, the top right corner is the area that we're talking about. This is a 152-foot cell tower that will be going, originally, this had 2 hearings at the Municipal Planning Board. I attended both of those because there's a lot of objections from my neighbors, so I wanted to hear the facts. The original proposal was the Coral Randall Park, and it's labeled old, came in at 172 feet, and the Municipal Planning Board asked the cell tower developer to go back and re-engineer, and they came back and moved it to the north, which is now the green dot, and reduced the size to 152 feet. So we have to give them credit for that compromise. I also will tell you that the PD, which was approved in 2010, did allow for a cell tower, so that's not in dispute. What it didn't allow for was the access. And as you can see at the bottom there, the access, which will go to the next slide, will come right next to that gentleman's house. Thanks, Ed. Yes, as you can see at the top, you can see kind of the, boy, if I was good, I could draw on this now.
You can.
Can I do this? Well,
Yeah.
Yep.
Go back, Ed. Thanks. Anyway, I can describe it. As you can see in the top there, what looks like a dirt road will go from the back of the neighborhood to the conservation area where the cell tower will be built and maintained. And so here's the issues of the neighbors. Number one, this easement is being created through there. It'll go right next to the gentleman's house. That currently, as you can see, is kind of a pocket park, which the kids use for recreation. It should be noted, and this was brought up at the MPB, that the cell tower developer asked the St. John's Water Management District for approval to upgrade the road, and they were refused because it was in a conservation area and a wetland area. So the challenge we have and the neighbors are having, and I agree with them, I think it's bad policy. You've got a subdivision that's being finished. Nowhere in the marketing materials of the home builder does it show a cell tower. Again, if a cell tower is accretive to the neighborhood, why wouldn't the home builder share that with potential buyers? They don't. And I think it just feels like the developer and slash home builder has taken one more shot to monetize a spot backed by a conservation area, and then they're going to move across the road and start building again. My point is, it's not going to hurt you any, at least I didn't hear any testimony that'll hurt you with reception if you were to move to an area that has no homes built, and then that way the home buyers would know what they were getting into. So my neighbors feel like this one was kind of a dump at the very end and not in the best interest of policy and how we treat neighbors. Because again, they do have the ability to do it in the PD, but there's no access, and the access is being granted by the home builder, not the neighbors. So because of all that, I'd love to talk through it, but I'm having a hard time supporting this one because I just don't think it's accretive to the neighborhood.
Brooke, who can speak to this from staff?
Hi, Paul Lewis, Chief Planning Manager. So yes, I just want a little bit of background, and additional background. Thank you, Commissioner. So this goes with the approval for the allowance of a cell tower on this property. Goes all the way back to 2010. And the actual language that was in the PD at the time says the master site plan depicts an area that may be appropriate for the future installation of a telecommunications tower. The tower may be installed only if approved as a conditional use in accordance with the city's normal conditional use permit procedures. And so what we told the applicant is that you need to go through those procedures, and they've done so. They went through Municipal Planning Board. The first time they came through, they, as the commissioner said, they reduced, well, after hearing the feedback from the neighbors, the applicant came back and made some changes, reduced the size of the cell tower itself from 172 to 152 feet. They moved it away from the neighborhood by approximately 432 feet. Further away from the neighbors. So from the perspective of the conformance with the land development code, the cell tower is acceptable. It meets our land development code regulations. So the issue of the access point is one where where we understand from the applicant that they have had some negotiations or discussions with the Expressway Authority and have not been able to obtain an off-site or another site access point. That's as far as we know. The other issues that came into the design of that particular roadway, we finally got into some agreement on that. We felt that it was in not sure where you want to go from that point, but
Commissioner, I'm a little uncomfortable without giving notice to the applicant, simply pulling this off and
the applicant is
different determination.
The
representative's here, Mayor.
You must be representing the applicant. Would you like to speak?
I have a PowerPoint presentation, if I may.
Okay.
Is it okay if I use this? Sure. Wonderful. My apologies, one moment while I set this up. Awesome. Perfect. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Tenaya John, 800 Tarpon Woods Boulevard, Suite E1, Palm Harbor, Florida, 34685. I come before you today with staff and MPB unanimous recommendations of approval for this 152-foot tall unipole-style communication tower in the Randall Park. I have a presentation that I can take you through that would show how I meet each and every of the objective standards of your code. But first, let me address certain questions that were brought up. The first was to talk about the access point. In the PUD document, the parcel that we are on is called out as the site where, through the conditional use process, this may be approved. As you heard, that goes back to 2010. One of the things that you didn't hear in the presentation is that that Randall Park went through a couple of developers. When you look into the minutes of the MPB hearing, you'll actually hear that when Mattamy took over, they actually disclosed this in all of their contracts. They took over after it was partially developed, but for their portion, they've disclosed it every step of the way. That parcel, which was part of the PD, has had only one access point through the whole time, and that is the access point that you see on the map. Let me see if I can switch over here real quick. May I please have the computer set up?
Ed, there you go.
Okay, marvelous. Okay. So the access point, and there is an easement recorded, it was recorded prior to the beginning of this project, has always been through this break. There's a weir there that is part of the South Florida Water Management District permit for all of Randall Park. Originally, to just give a little history on this, there had been an easement once upon a time when they were building the burrow pits that were used as compensating storage areas for Randall Park. And then that was a temporary easement. As they went along, the access point remained. They came back and executed a cleanup easement later on. As far as improvements to the access point, what you would see would be improvement on either side of the wetland line, but the weir itself would remain a gravel driveway. And this is that access. If I can get it to play. Okay, and as you can see, this is the access point. This is the weir that I'm referring to. It's the only cut in the wetlands. The other thing that was discussed at the pre-application meeting was whether an alternate access from Randall Park could be obtained. And as you'll see, this property is landlocked. To the north by 528's right-of-way, to the east by 417's right-of-way, and then to the west and south by wetlands. Matter of fact, this is from the plans that are in your file, and you can see, unfortunately it's black on green, but the wetland line actually goes over and extends to the right-of-way. One of the things that South Florida Water Management District was clear about to our engineer during the pre-application meeting is that they weren't going to allow any further removal of wetlands from the site. So this is our one access point that's not 417 or 528. Additionally, I attempted to obtain access rights from Central Florida Expressway Authority. This was kind of a back and forth, you need to ask Carter sort of deal, and I kept asking throughout the summer. Finally submitting a determination request, and I received an email from them. My apologies while I reorganize myself here. Is it okay if I close this laptop and just kind of, okay. Marvelous. And I can put that up there? Okay. Okay. Document camera. I'm going to log in where it's not in public view, if I may. Okay. May I please have the document camera back? So this is an email that I received from Ms. Lanosa. She is Chief Counsel for Florida Expressway Authority. And we had requested access basically anywhere along 417 from the power line, or from the compound down to that wetland line. This will. Their engineer who is a contract engineer through Dewberry. However, Linda, we have reviewed the request to add a driveway to State Road 417 south of 528 to access the proposed cell tower to be located in Mattamy Randall Park on the west side of 417. I can zoom this in so you can see that on. 417 is a limited access facility, and by necessity, all driveways are not allowed. Therefore, the request to add a driveway from 417 does not warrant further review. In other words, thank you for switching back. On my third request to them, they basically told me, thank you for asking, but we really mean no. That leaves me with one access point, the existing access point that's always been there, off of Andreas Langlio. One of the things that you'll also note from the MPB minutes is that there had been some complaints about the current condition of that access point. Evidently, a sign truck had created some ruts and the like. What's being proposed as part of this approval, and your staff also stated that this is a very normal solution, was to provide a geogrid style driveway. That allows the driveway access from a very short apron that would be off of the existing curb cut that's already there on Andreas Langfield to appear as grass. You just have a stabilized portion of grass that continues back. In other words, it puts the driveway in a better state than it currently is. It will operate better. The other thing that I showed during, and I can pull up your property appraiser website, there's multiple other access points, both for utility features such as a lift station and for other houses off of those right angle style corners throughout Randall Park. So this form of access with higher intensity, because a house typically, let's say you have one person who lives in that house and they work 5 days a week. You're looking at a minimum of 40 accesses a month, 20 business days times 2, going and coming. Even if you want to cut that in half, let's say it's 20. The communication tower will be accessed typically by no more than 1 pickup truck sized vehicle per carrier per month. You're looking at 4 co-locations. So you're looking at no more than 4 accesses throughout the month. And you would still have your typical access there for maintenance of the borough pits, maintenance of those grounds. But that access point is far less than other access points that are configured similarly in Randall Park. You'll see in the staff report for the MPB that we're allowable in our PUD zoning, that we are allowable through the conditional use permit process in the office low future land use designation. I'm going to power this up so I have slides to go with me talking. So this is if I may have the, thank you. So what you're seeing is the future land use map for Randall Park, and the purple area is where we are at, and that's office low, future land use designation. The unipole style contains all antennas and cabling within the unipole itself. It creates a slim, smooth pole like the ones that you see here. Basically, height for height, this is the smallest profile communication tower that you can have. You'll also see in the record, both in AT&T's letter of intent as well as testimony before the Municipal Planning Board back in March, that the height that they are requesting is the height that they need. This had originally come before your Municipal Planning Board's 172-foot AGL, and they already gave up 20 feet. Going back to this aerial that you saw, at the old your code has an objective standard for objective standard for separation from residential. In other words, the distance that it deems compatible without additional features, such as intervening objects such as foliage and trees to block it, and such as employing camouflage techniques for a standard monopole design, that's the gray pole with external antennas on a head frame, to meet this objective compatibility standard of separation. And it's 3 times tower height. And at this location, I'm providing 5 times your tower height. I'm also providing camouflage, and there's intervening cypress heads that are providing partial buffering. Circling back to the access point, one thing to be noted is that there is a utility easement that runs along the north side of Randall Park. It's very old. I actually have a copy of the recorded easement sketch here. You can see the beach, they call it the B line back then, but the beach line up along the north. And then it proceeds at a diagonal, and I can relate this back to our aerial. That utility easement for any maintenance that they have to do on those poles, this is the utility easement. Actually accesses through this access point. Actually comes through this access point. That's the legal point where the power company can gain ingress and egress to service their utility poles. Again,
if I could ask a question.
Commissioner Gray, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've heard this in the MPB, and you're saying it again, once per month. How do we know that? Your company is the third-party provider for AT&T and some others. If their system's not working, I don't think they're going to say, oops, we've been in once this month, we got to wait. They're going in. So how do we know? How did this neighbor who's living right next to the access point, forget about the initial construction of pulling all the equipment through to set it up, but at ongoing, how do we know it's once or twice a month? I don't think we really do. It depends on the conditions, I think.
well, I'm telling you once a month because I'm giving you what's a typical worst case scenario. The industry actually has experience going to show that it's less than that. So you might have a month that maybe it does have 2 accesses because they have to go out there and do something, or maybe a storm came through and they have to reset breakers or something. However, it will average out. Experience with the industry shows that it averages out to no more than once per carrier per month, and that's me as the attorney sitting here trying to tell you a worst case scenario so that way I'm not overselling it. You saw the photo simulations. Basically, the redesign brought the mass and scale of the unipole down into the mass and scale of objects that are already in the view sheds, roof lines, trees. There's partial visibility, and you can go hunting and find visibility. Here's visibility from 417. But generally what you're seeing is something that is quietly in the background and is down the mass and scale of what's already in the neighborhood.
Counselor, I'm sorry to interrupt, please. This is a cloudy day. If it was blue skies, I don't think you'd see that. That's part of why the neighbors are frustrated, because they don't feel like people are listening. Your pictures, I appreciate those, but they're on a cloudy day. You're not going to see a white pole on a cloudy day, please. And so I'll say this and then I'll be quiet. I'll let you go, and I'm sorry. The big challenge for the neighbors is access, and that is the home builder and your company are coming in at the very last as they're pulling out of the subdivision. It's built out to build, a 150-foot cell tower with access just directly adjacent to homes. And that's what's bothering people, especially when you look across the way. The same home builder controls all of the property, and there's no homes there. I don't understand how that couldn't be a better solution, given where we are in the fact that this neighborhood is built out, and this is the last thing that the home builder's doing, is selling you a piece or renting you a piece to do a cell tower. So thank you for coming. I'll be quiet. I think it's bad policy. I think it sends the wrong message to neighbors that if you get in a neighborhood and it's a stable neighborhood, all of a sudden we're going to come in and build a cell tower and provide access through a residential neighborhood. I think it's bad policy. So thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Gray, as far as clouds in the day, unfortunately, I can't control when the engineer goes out and takes the photos. However, going back to this is a site which AT&T testified before the Municipal Planning Board had been in development for them for years. This had been originally contemplated all the way back to 2010. Coral was not the first tower company to pursue this site. This isn't something that just sprung up. It's something that has taken time to develop, and unfortunately the timing sometimes works out where you are developing it with the community built out. But that's no different than if you were to come into a community that already has poor access and locate one of these towers on a facility feature. For example, one of the towers that I worked on very early in my career was in a golf course and was located on one of their golf course maintenance facilities in the middle of the golf course with houses in all directions. And the access point was an access point that you have to get to that portion of the golf course. So this really isn't anything that's outside of your ordinary. You have other access points in that neighborhood that are very similar. Again, such as the lift station that's in there, such as other houses that have a greater intensity. And that access point is already in use and has already, at least according to the neighbors, is already in a state where it is considered, it's not ideal for them. And this project leaves that access point that has current use with the maintenance of the borough pits and latent use with the power lines in a better situation, in a better condition to operate, to function better for them than if this project were to not be here.
Agreed. Unfortunately, the Water Management District didn't see it that way.
Well, what you're seeing though, however, is the portion that's being complained is damage to the Pocket Park area. The Water Management District didn't say that that could not be improved. That's upland of the wetland line. So the portion that they were talking about was this, if I may please have the VGA, the computer back. So what the Water Management District was discussing was the actual weir. Here we go. So that's the portion that crosses the Cypress Head from wetland line on this side to wetland line on that side. That portion is currently a weir with a gravel driveway on top, just a standard gravel driveway. It's been, over the years, it's been what it's been. It would continue to be a gravel driveway. The portion that's being complained of is actually west of that, between Andreas Langfield and the wetland line. And that's the portion that will be left in better condition than it currently is and will function better as a result of this project. Just to go down through your conditional use permit factors, purpose and intent. The purpose and intent of your LDC is to provide for the logical development of communication towers in a manner that maximizes compatibility with your neighboring zones through the establishment of objective standards, and I meet and exceed all of those objective standards of your code. Growth management plan. Your tower code is the expression of your growth, the expression and implementation of your growth management plan. Again, I meet and exceed all the objective factors of your tower code. Compatibility, you heard my testimony in the MPB minutes. You also had testimony from Coral Towers and from AT&T about the degree of access being minimal, less than even one additional home. The unit will not create noise, smoke, dust, odor. If any generators were placed on the property, they would be in strict compliance with your noise ordinance, which sets at, I believe, 65 decibels, which is conversation level. The unit pole would be unstaffed. It would not require water, sewer, education, or recreational resources. It would typically add, and again, the one trip per carrier per month, no more than. Residential displacement. This would not displace residential development. In fact, it would support it. Wireless communications are increasingly an important, essentially a utility. In your record, I have the 911 call statistics for 2016. Over 83% of all 911 calls received by the Orange County Sheriff's Office came from wireless phones. And what that's showing is that wireless coverage is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. We've agreed to all proposed conditions of approval. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I have left out.
Commissioner Ortiz has a question for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. When you guys were trying to, or I don't know, did you have a chance to meet with the actual expressway authority?
I held phone conversations and email exchanges, forgive me.
Okay. Did you all invite Commissioner Gray to join you all? Maybe he probably could have put his 2 cents on that one in talking to them.
If Commissioner Gray would like to continue this hearing so that we could arrange a meeting with the Expressway Authority, I imagine that we could have that. I know that departments of transportation, like the Expressway Authority, often consider themselves a county unto themselves. But if you would like us to take that route,
would that be an alternative?
Sure. I think the big issue is access more than the actual tower. I think neighbors have come to, again, the concept of moving it back further away and reducing size was well received. I think the access through the neighborhood is what's giving folks a lot of concern. So I'd be glad to do that. I don't know what I can do to help.
So I serve on the Expressway Authority, obviously, and I don't know what the policy is related to allowing some form of private access off the right-of-way at the expressway. I know the Turnpike does it because I see agricultural uses all up and down the Turnpike. So I think Commissioner Ortiz's suggestion is a good one, Commissioner Gray. If in fact access is the only issue, why don't we defer this matter and we'll bring it back in twofold. I'll check with the Expressway Authority I'll check tomorrow on what the policy is and whether we can make an exception here related to that. And then secondarily, if that doesn't work, maybe we can work on whatever the access is to make it more comfortable for the homeowners. Maybe you've already done all that, I'm not sure, but for now, you agree probably the best course of action is to defer this to the next meeting.
And the good thing about that, Mayor, if I may, is that if it works, it's going to be great. If it doesn't, well, then we have used all our resources. So it's a better explanation to the community.
Absolutely, so. Commissioner Ortiz. At the board's direction, I would respectfully request a continuance. Do we believe that we will be able to, Commissioner Gray, would you like me to request a continuance, I assume, just for one hearing, and we'll be able to make that work with your schedule?
I would think between the mayor and I, we can, and your help, we can figure out pretty quick if we can get access.
Marvelous. Mr. Mayor, on behalf of Coral Towers and AT&T, I would respectfully request a continuance to your October commission meeting.
Any objection to that?
No, sir.
Then we'll consider that done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
And leave I didn't catch your name at the very beginning. If you want to leave a card or something with a clerk.
Absolutely.
What is your name?
Oh, my apologies. My name is Mataniah John. I can spell that for you if you'd like as well. That's programmed.
We just want to make sure we had contact info. Thank you. Good, Commissioner Gray?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, then that will bring us to, let's see, we've already conducted the Aviation Authority hearing. So hearings, ordinances, second read, Madam Clerk, number 1.
Ordinance 2018-49, an ordinance of the City of Orlando granting JJ's Waste and Recycling LLC a non-exclusive franchise to provide roll-off container collection and disposal of solid waste within the City of Orlando, outlining franchisees' duties and providing the terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability and an effective date.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ings. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on the roll-off franchise? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, ordinances on first read, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2018-51, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located south of Rayburn Street, east of Boggy Creek Road, and north of Tradeport Drive, and comprised of 9.5 acres of land, more or less, and amending the city's boundary and description, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as industrial and industrial resource protection on the city's official future land use maps, designating the property as the planned development zoning district within the Air Commerce Park plan development on the city's official zoning maps, amending the Air Commerce Park plan development to include the property in the legal description and the development plan, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Is there anyone from the public who would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2018-55, an ordinance of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending Chapter 21 of the Code of the City of Orlando entitled Elections by amending Section 20.07-1, providing procedural requirements for alternative method for qualifying fee, signature verification, state election assessment by amending Section 21.09, providing a definition of election board by amending Section 21.12, modifying canvassing board by amending Section 21.15, adding voter to the title by amending Section 21.18, modifying absentee voting to vote by mail by amending Section 21.22, providing petition procedural requirements, adding Section 21.24, providing for electronic filing of campaign finance reports and penalties, amending Chapter 2 of the City Charter entitled Administration by amending Section 14, providing procedural requirements for initiative ordinances, by amending Section 15, providing procedural requirements for referendum, legislative findings, and for severability, codification, correction of Scrivener's errors, and effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sheehan. Okay, this is an ordinance that updates our elections procedures and brings them current with technology, and also has a provision related to the canvassing board. And I know a number of commissioners have expressed interest in that particular part of it. Denise, can you or Natasha just run through what's in the ordinance?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. We have basically 3 major changes that we're proposing. One is that we have electronic filing. As you know, that's just to comply with an update in the times. The second purpose is to do some updates on the canvassing board. The plan was to amend Section 21.12 to allow for the canvassing board to consist of the city clerk, director of audit services, and the chief administrative officer or that person's designee. Then the canvassing board would appoint an alternate at its first scheduled meeting. The third change involved the petition process. We had some experiences last year that showed us that there was a lot of language missing in the ordinance so that we would know how to proceed. So we've done a lot of procedural, technical things to say when reports are due, how they need to be filed, where they need to be filed. So those are the basic 3 things that we've changed.
Okay, questions for Natasha? Commissioner Sheehan?
Well, I was just interested too, because I just saw the ordinance and said the commissioners are no longer on the canvassing board. It's actually something I enjoyed doing. I know there were some restrictions in terms of us being able to go to election night parties or endorse candidates or anything like that. I always enjoyed doing it. Is there a specific reason why we were booted off and nobody told us why? Which, we kind of approve it. I mean, come on.
So we loved having canvassing board, Commissioner. Let's be clear about that. However, what it does is, when we have our canvassing board meetings, the first thing I would do is sit and tell you all that you could not participate in another commissioner's election or the mayor's election because under state statute, that's a violation. And you'd be disqualified. Then we'd be down to 2 members. And then a lot of you all want to support each other. But you can't do that if you're on the canvassing board. So last year was the first time we were down to 2 members. We had kind of a little concern. What if someone got sick? Nothing in our ordinance that would say specifically who would be an alternate. So that's got us thinking that we should come up with a way to resolve that issue and not put you all in that position. So really, it was made to allow you all the opportunity to support one another if you'd like to.
And if commissioners feel strongly that we ought to leave it the way it is, we can do that and come up with a means of choosing an alternate if there are not two commissioners that are available to serve. So whatever, enjoy some thoughts here.
I think we should leave it as is because I like the aspect of the commissioners being involved here. I really don't want to see appointed officials across the board serving as a canvassing board for our city elections. We do have the city clerk, and we do have the assistant city attorney that oversees and kind of help guide the canvassing board to make sure it's doing the right thing and saying the right thing, et cetera, and reviewing these ballots, et cetera. If there is a need to have someone else to do it, I would rather go outside of the city to get canvassing board members, judges, or somebody of this effect, or some attorneys from other attorney firms, and even maybe other organizations like the NAACP Urban League or something like that to serve as a canvassing board member. But I really would like to make sure that we do have the commissioners to serve as the canvassing board.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yeah.
Let's get a few other thoughts in here.
Yeah, let me, Tasha, I'll talk with you and Kyle about it. The concern I have is whether you serve or not is not a big deal to me. I like Patty, I enjoy doing it. And it gives me an excuse not to have to be involved in somebody else's election, which is a little bit of excuse every now and then. My concern is that the selection process we have selected has been somebody who actually works for the mayor of Orlando. So every other election, the person who is on the canvassing board has made a decision based upon who his boss is or will be. And I don't think we ought to put somebody in that position. So I don't think it's a major change. I'd like to take the next couple of weeks and kind of think through some other options that are available. I think if we can come up with a fair way to bring alternates on, so we don't have a case where you only have one person on the committee who's the clerk. I think we have a way that we can accomplish that. So I'd like to just kind of think through that a little bit more in the next couple of weeks.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes, Mayor, I'm in support of, the elected still. I enjoy being on the canvassing board, but I do think that the electronic pieces, the other two components, we need to keep in place. But also, I think the elected officials, when you're saying you want to keep the canvassing board as electeds, when you're called to duty, you need to show up. You need to show up because there was a time, just the last cycle, where a commissioner stated, for some reason unbeknownst of this council, they did not want to participate. But here today, they're trying to save their position to be on the council. So we can't be double-minded. We cannot be double-minded when we're talking about pushing policy forward. Either you're for or you're against. And you can't do it at your discretion when someone might be running that you might not want to move forward. And everyone knows what I'm saying without what I'm saying. I am in support of keeping the canvassing board with the clerk and commissioners. But we need to step up when it's your turn, regardless what your position is.
Mayor, if I may respond.
Commissioner Ings.
Thank you very much. Because I want the record to reflect that the commissioner is talking about myself.
Indeed.
And that during my time of recusing myself from being on the canvassing board, I brought up the fact to this council, and it was clear, and everybody voted against what I was saying, and that was that that particular commissioner was up for Mayor Pro Tem. And I said for us to not show partiality towards any candidate, and in this case, the particular commissioner that was running for re-election, that commissioner not be be selected as mayor pro tem until after the election, because again, for me, about wanting to maintain the commissioners involved as canvassing board members was because of voter confidence, that the voters have in us, that we're going to do the right thing, and that there is voter transparency. Those issues are important to make sure that we are open to the public and the public sees specifically what we're doing. And because I was outvoted, I sent a letter to the mayor expressing those very concerns, because from a legal perspective, I was advised that that's what I needed to do. So that was done. And it was all because of any inference towards any impartiality or partiality towards any other candidate, that I did not want the city to be placed in that particular position. And that's what I did.
I would like for the record to reflect that during Commissioner Ing's campaign, he was also Mayor Pro Tem.
And let the record reflect that the commissioner,
We've had enough of that.
Well, Mayor, the one thing that
Commissioner.
Just this one point, please.
All right,
Just
you
this
got
one
10
point.
seconds, go.
The 10 seconds is, I had been Mayor Pro Tem.
Don't matter.
And I had already been elected. That wasn't my first election.
We don't need to replay this whole thing. But there seems to me that there's a consensus that we would like to keep the canvassing board as it is, with the clerk and two of the commissioners that aren't up for re-election in that cycle. There are 3, and we're all going to endeavor to try to participate when asked to participate. And we need to, however, also figure out how we're going to have an alternate of some sort. And it's great to think of judges, but we can't make them do it. I mean, they have to volunteer. We can't just say, okay, Judge, come on over here and be on our canvassing board. So,
How about you had that kind of power?
Persuasion, but not coercion.
How about the CAO as the alternate? Is that a problem? The CAO would be the alternate if one of the commissioners for some reason could not.
My recommendation is this: we allow the clerk to make a nomination in which we, as the council, would approve, and set up some guideline for the clerk, that just find somebody who's unbiased, and she may have to go ask 6 judges to find somebody who would do it. I've been in that position where I'm the only commissioner. It's me and the clerk, and I'm being told, do not do anything. Don't go to a fundraiser, don't be seen on a campaign event, don't do anything with your colleagues for fear of impropriety. And so when I look at this and say, well, you've got staff members that clearly have a fiscal reason, let's not put them in that position. So let's find somebody else outside of that. So I want to take a couple of weeks and research it and see if there's a methodology we can create that just allows somebody, so that the clerk's not in a position of having to know she's got some people kind of in line in case, so the process can go forward. That's what my concern is.
It seems reasonable. All right, we do have a member of the public that would like to testify. Why don't we do that, and we'll finish the discussion. Luana Gelser. Probably going to go into our 501.
I close this, I'm not going to be held responsible. Sir? Okay, now, don't send me no bill, I'm going to send it back. Luana Gelser, 7674 St. Stephen's Court. My concern is the misrepresentation that's been presented to the community and the citizens that are watching online. The city of Orlando is the only city in the state of Florida that conducts their elections. The only. Everybody else uses supervisor elections. They have an independent canvassing board. What's wrong with the microphone? It's the second time this has happened. An independent canvassing board. If you're going to line up with what everybody else is doing throughout the state and make people feel comfortable with the voting process, line up with the state. Let's take a look at the petitions. If you turn your intent to run you can start collecting petitions immediately. But the city of Orlando makes it much harder for anybody else to do petitions by only allowing you 100 days. So I agree if you want to line up with electronically filing, but I have a problem when the city clerk, who's appointed by the mayor, has anything to do with the city election. Yes, it might be your charter, but you're the only city I state again. Look at the Tampa, look at others. When we brought this complaint to the city of Orlando and to the state attorney, we were very concerned and we did our research. And our research is even Orange County government has an independent canvassing board. The town of Eatonville, of Poplar, no one uses current elected officials in the cities that they're representing in those elections. You might can serve for Orange County, but not the city of Orlando. So my question is, when we have a problem with people feeling like, is there fairness in the election process, and people have been convicted or found, you know, not convicted, I might change that word. We've had some voter fraud issues in the past, and we still have some concerns. We can get people on video collecting absentee ballots. It falls on deaf ears. Get them, I mean, we've done everything possible to make people understand this process. But Mayor Dyer, when you misrepresent and tell the community one thing, but you don't tell them the real truth, it makes it sound like, is this really a PR, or are you trying to pull a fast one over the community? But some of us have been following this process for quite some time. And I just want to say to everybody, if we're going to line up with the state, petitions could be turned in as soon as you turn in your intent. Electronically filing your campaign reports, fine. That means if you're not doing it right, not the city clerk that finds you, but maybe the state, like everybody else. So there's no favoritism or the presumed favoritism. And when it comes to the canvassing board, it should not be any of you. Any of you. Period. Go with what everybody else is doing. Why do you have to be different? You don't have term limitations. There's no checks and balances here. How much more control of an election process you need? How much more? So the question is it really about showing that we're transparent or only presenting certain things to make it sound like? But for those who didn't understand what was going on, I did. I understood. That's why I'm here speaking about this issue. And it's real, it made me go, we're going to sneak this one in just before the budget hearing meeting. Then the election 2019 coming up, it's already in place, nobody really knows what's going on. Well, why would we do that to our citizens? You're elected to represent them. Be fair to everybody. If you're going to change it and line up with the state and all the rest of the cities. Like I said, Tampa, everybody else, 1-page agreement. City of Orlando, 8 to 10-page agreement. And people didn't know the supervisor election does not, all they do is count the votes. The city clerk, whoever the mayor appoints, run the elections. And that is not right. That is not right. So Mayor Dyer, I say to you, we've got to do better when it comes to transparency. And let's stop misleading our community about the fairness of our election process. Because now that people know the truth, would they also demand that you make the changes and line up with everybody else? Thank you.
Luana, I usually don't respond to your misinformation, but this time I really need to do so because you haven't done it. Hey, Luana, I let you talk for 5 minutes.
You're not going to correct me and not let me.
I'm going to correct you, and then you can say what you want. Will you settle down and
Mayor
be?
Dyer. It's called my opinion, Mayor Dyer. My opinion.
Luana, I'm going to speak.
Speak, Mayor Dyer.
Seriously?
Speak, Mayor Dyer.
Sit down.
No, you said you wanted to speak.
Sit down.
You going to arrest me today?
No, I'm just going to ask you to sit down, Luana.
Because you got called out. You don't like to be challenged.
Pitiful.
No, you didn't say anything that was truthful.
The truth is out
Not from you, that's for sure.
Oh, whatever. People see you.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
Mayor, I have one question.
Oh, actually, we need to vote on this. Let's see, Commissioner Ortiz?
Well, we're gonna, I guess, postpone this item for the
No, I think what
commissioners
we
to
will
take.
do is ask Natasha to draft it back so that the city council members and the clerk constitute the canvassing board and to come up with a process for an alternate. And I think Commissioner Stewart's idea, at least for now, is what I'd ask you to draft, which is that the city clerk would figure out a process to find an alternate if 2 of the 3 or 3 of the 3 commissioners are not available. Okay, Commissioner.
No, that's it. I was just.
Commissioner Ings.
Thank you, Mayor. The one question I had was reference petitions, and I noticed this is an alternative method for qualifying for the position of being elected. But in this process, and I was wondering if there were other areas such as the county, the state, whereby candidates get petitions, but they don't have to say it's a part of, I can't really qualify with finance, so I get petitions. And then they get on the ballot. They get on the ballot without having, and that's what I wanted to kind of clear up. Do you kind of understand what I'm saying?
So, Commissioner, there is a process where a person can file an affidavit saying that if they're unable to qualify, they don't have the resources, then they can do the alternative method. And they can get the signatures, which is 3% of the registered elected voters as of January 1 of that year. And if you get all those signatures, then you don't have to.
Okay. Yeah, and see, and this is what I want to understand about the petitions actually paying for the filing fee. But in other jurisdictions where petitions are allowed, but it's not about paying the filing fee, it's about gathering enough numbers that will qualify you to automatically be on the ballot.
Well, you have either or.
Equal,
you can do either or.
yeah.
You can either do the petition method or you can just pay the filing fee.
Well, that part I understand.
Oh.
But what I'm saying is just the petition itself. If they've got so many number of petitions signed, then that will qualify them to be on the ballot. And it's not about an alternative method because you can't pay.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
So we can look at the Florida statute. What we use is we looked at what Orange County was doing. We looked at several other cities, and we looked at the state statute. We can look at that and see if there's how they word it, because I think that's what we're trying to model it after.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see what you're saying now. I apologize. It took me a minute to get it.
Hey,
So,
well, it took me a minute to get it out.
Okay.
All right, further discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, so we'll bring that back with some modifications.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Madam Clerk, first read number 3.
Ordinance 2018-56, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida relating to bicycling and skateboarding, substantially amending Chapter 10, Orlando City Code entitled Bicycles and Bicycle Paths to allow bicycle sharing services and to delete provisions redundant of state law, amending City Code to allow skateboarding for transportation purposes in certain public rights-of-ways, including sidewalks, requiring helmets for skateboarders under 16 years of age, providing legislative findings, definitions, penalties, and for severability, codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Ings. FJ?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. I'll just run through a quick presentation on just some of the background ordinance for any questions that you may have. And there is the element to that as well. And Kyle, I worked over lunch to come up with a friendly amendment that between first and second reading, which I think addresses one of the concerns that was brought up after agenda review earlier today. So basically what we've got here is really the culmination of over a year's worth of work. We did a lot of outreach with other municipalities and also within the industry to sort of craft the ordinance. We also spent a lot of time looking at what other municipalities have done as part of our Safe Streets Academy trip to South Bend. They have a stationless provider. And so we actually got to go out and kind of see how the system worked, see how the app worked, and just kind of think about some of the things we wanted to do with our ordinance that brought it forward. So let's see here. So just basically a recap of what we're going to go over today. So starting earlier this year in the legislative session, there was some legislation that was proposed that would preempt our ability to regulate dockless bike share. And so whenever we get into a situation like that, it makes us as staff very nervous because it limits our ability to sort of manage after rollout. So if there's, so that's one of the primary things I want you to kind of consider when looking at ordinance. And so dockless bike share, just to kind of run through what it is quickly, allows bike rentals through a smartphone application, which most bike sharing companies allow you to do. The difference in this system with dockless is it actually allows a point. So trip, origin, and destination can kind of be right at front door. You don't have to leave it at a station and then kind of walk. So it provides kind of that last mile trip. All the bikes have a locking mechanism integrated within them, so you can pretty much lock the bike up wherever your final destination is. And we'll get into, there's some exceptions to that, we'll get into that a little bit later. And then most of the features on the bike, they have GPS, they're adjustable, baskets, lights, and then front defenders. These are just some typical examples. This is Spin and my bike. We spent a lot of time kind of, like I said, talking with both of them about some of the experiences they've had in other municipalities. Benefits, user-friendly, and it's affordable. That was one of the key things that we noticed when we were in South Bend was that, your trip starts at $1. The other thing that we're really worried about is, as far as the challenges are concerned, is you can basically roll all four of these up into kind of a similar concern, and we're just worried about them cluttering up the right of way, impeding pedestrian traffic, and so we worked some items in the ordinance that sort of address those things. The ordinance overview is a permit-based program. The application fee for the company is $800 initially, with a $365 renewal fee annually. They also pay a fee per bicycle, $27. That allows us to generate a little revenue to sort of manage the program. There's a performance bond on each bicycle, $80. We want to make sure that the fleet is maintained in good order. There are insurance requirements. The advantage for us is sort of monthly reporting as well, so we know where people are coming from and going to. We're requiring 24/7 customer service, so if some of our commuters have an issue with their bike, there's somebody that they can actually call. And then we're also requiring to kind of help keep from these things cluttering up our rights of way or sidewalks. We're requiring a 2-hour rebalancing. And so the neat thing about this is that in our discussions with the industry, a lot of that occurs sometimes without them even devoting any staff time to it. What they'll do is they'll push something out to their application, and they give their users benefits for actually moving bicycles that are not in the location where they should be. In September, my bike launched in UCF, and so we went out and took one of my staff members out for the field visit, and so these are just some of the things you notice. Very few bikes were overturned, so it's used for working order. The majority of the riders are on sidewalks, so these aren't your super expert skilled riders, these are just normal commuters. And then here's just examples of some of the parked outside one of their facilities, and then that's a screenshot of their app. So you basically pull up the app and it'll tell you exactly where you can catch your next ride on land bike or bike share. If you can actually zoom this map in to sort of drill down on what street or what side of the street it's on. Some more photos. There's a couple here. You see one parked in grass, another one on the road. So there's always going to be some outliers. But if the company right sizes their fleet, we believe that won't be a big problem. And as far as managing the system is concerned, like I said before, we want to avoid cluttering the right-of-way. We also will ask them to kind of geofence some areas too, so avoid parking in prohibited areas. So I know we have a bicycle prohibition in Lake Eola Park, and so I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I think probably the bike in those locations won't lock, and so you have to wait till you're outside of that geofenced area to get it to lock. And then this is another example. So one of the issues that we also acknowledge that we need to work on is sort of providing additional two-wheeled parking. And so one of the things we'll be doing in the upcoming months is looking for opportunities within our rights-of-way to add additional two-wheeled parking in areas where regular car or vehicle parking is not allowed. So we've got some work to do with procurement, but we'll have a consultant on board to help us identify those areas. And so just a couple of notes here at the end. I mean, we're bringing this forward primarily because we have sort of the potential of some preemption. We're not doing this to favor one type of bike share company over another. We acknowledge that there are changes in technology that will necessitate this, and we just want to make sure that when that does happen, we have the resources available to us to sort of manage that from the city's standpoint. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Okay, questions for FJ? Commissioner Sheehan.
Thanks, FJ. And you know, we talked a little bit about this, and I actually went to Dallas, Texas, and they have all of these bike share programs. And one of my concerns was that the bikes ended up, they have a beautiful, it's not a river, but it's a floodplain basically through the city where there's a bike lane all the way around. It's really cool. I walked it every day while I was in Dallas, and the problem is though the people just throw the bikes in there and they become litter. And you know, there were a lot of, I liked the accessibility everywhere, but then you have the problems where like along the right-of-ways, along the sidewalks, you had people then that just parked them and then started throwing trash in them. So, you know, I like the concept, but there's a lot of issues with it. I'd rather see somewhere where someone has to return them so that they don't end up as trash, so they don't end up in our roadways. And, you know, I mean, our stormwater people are dealing with enough issues without having to deal with these bikes blocking our stormwater system too. I understand the concern of preemption, but I think we need to put a little bit more, you know, a little bit more teeth in it to make sure that these things don't just become litter. I like with the juice bike sharing system that we currently have. You have to lock them back up and all that. They're very well maintained. I just don't, I know, I saw bikes that were completely disabled that were just thrown around everywhere. I mean, it was a mess.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think when we were in South Bend, we saw there were some bikes that, you know, one of the evenings it was very windy, there was a bunch that had blown over, but I think the folks that use the system know that there's just sort of a finite supply and resource, and that if they abuse them, the functionality or maybe even the whole system sort of is diminished or may go away. So I think the users are appreciative of it. I think you can never really prevent somebody from having a good Friday or Saturday night, which, you know, and taking these things and throwing. I mean, they lock themselves, and so they're fairly heavy. So I think someone could, you know, pick them up and you know, throw them around. But I think that's probably the exception. I don't think that that's based on what we've seen. I'm not sure about the Dallas model, but when we talked to the industry, one of the other things that they told us was that they don't want to oversupply the market because then they get less less revenue out of their capital expenditure. So I think what you'll see is that after they enter the market, there'll be some maybe few weeks, maybe several months to kind of fine tune the number. And so probably won't be a whole lot of bicycles that sit idle for too long and could be subject to vandalism.
Could we put something in the ordinance where in case a vendor is not responsible, and this is something we tried to do with shopping carts, and of course got preempted at the legislative level because they're all over our streets. But we could just put, like, was a $25 fee to return them to the store. Is there a way we can put in the ordinance that if the vendor is not responsible and does not return their bikes, where we get some kind of a financial, you know, if we have to go pick them up, we need to recoup our investment in having to go pick them up.
Right, and I think that's where we get into sort of the performance bond, as well as the annual permit fee and the actual fee for the company itself. So we're going to, and again, that'll be part of a fee resolution that comes in the very near future, but we've already added that kind of stuff in. And if you look nationally, there's some cities that don't charge anything, and then there's others that charge up to $50 per bike, and that's to kind of cover those costs. We have the ability to sort of, if we've got a user that, or a supplier that's not adhering to what we've got in the ordinance, then we actually have the power to revoke their ability to operate within the city.
So we revoke their ability to operate. When is there a point certain that they have to remove the bikes, and what's the next step?
Yeah, there's a whole appeal process that goes to the transportation director to start with, and then I think those appeals go to the chief administrative officer. So that's written into the ordinance.
I just don't want to have 25 of these sitting at the bottom of Lake Eola because somebody's been irresponsible. That's the thing.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. This past week, we had a chance to spend some time with the Florida League of Cities, and they were addressing some of the same issues. Billy came in and made a presentation of what we were doing, and we're beginning to start to see this move down the path, this and scooters and those kind of things, and getting some control. And I like the idea of a 2-hour limit. The question is, if we pick them up in 2 hours, what do we charge? They have to move them within 2 hours. How do we recoup our costs? I think Commissioner Sheehan's right on that issue. But I think a performance bond eventually is that if we tell them no, that you no longer can be inside the city, then they kind of do it anyway. I noticed that Coral Gables had an issue with a couple of their bike companies. One they felt like was a destination company that was actually working within Coral Gables, and one that was working outside, and bikes were being brought back. The ones that were working inside Coral Gables, it seems they had better users, they were more organized, they were set in particular places. Ones outside were just dropped off. And they eventually end up coming back and just kind of picking up every bike and charging for every bike that time they picked it up. And when you get, $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 bill from the city, you think twice about whether you're going to do it or not.
Sure, or if the vehicles or if the bicycles are impounded, that's the other thing too. Then
they have to get it back out again.
They lose their asset.
And I think we've done a good job. I mean, I think we've addressed a lot of those issues here, which I think are good. The industry, like cars and Uber and houses, are changing so fast. I think this is a great place for us to start. I'd love to kind of see this kind of continue to move forward. But have you talked to any other cities? I guess the question, I'm trying to get to my question. Have you, other cities outside of, I guess, we really don't have a we're not a destination in downtown. UCF has got its choice. I know the University of Florida is trying to address it right now, and other cities that are more vacation, or really around that vacation area of guys driving around a Disney World or something like that.
Yeah, Ian Ciccone in our office did a lot of research. He is at the Pro Walk, Pro Bike conference today, but from all the West Coast providers all the way to, your Washingtons, your New Yorks, and then out west is Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, and then Austin as well. So he spent a lot of time kind of talking to his peers within the industry just to kind of get their take on things. And I think when we first started out, we were kind of thinking more along the lines of very minimal fees, but I think we heard back that there is some cost to kind of managing it. So that's when we put the permit fee together, and then the per bike fee on an annual basis, which again will be part of the fee resolution that you'll see in the coming weeks.
What's been the response from the industry when you've talked to them?
Pretty positive, actually. Even when we set the proposed fee schedule together, I think it's something that they believe they can accommodate without any trouble.
Good. All right, thank you.
Okay, we do have one request to appear, Eric Troll. Eric.
All right, good afternoon, Council. Do appreciate you taking a few minutes to allow me to speak. My name is Eric Troll. I'm the Regional Director for Cycle Hop. We're the company that oversees street bike shares. So affording you the alternate perspective here. I will remind you, for those of you that weren't around in 2015, I believe most of you were, we launched way back when. Since then, we've pedaled a few 100,000 miles, and 2/5 of those trips are dockless. They didn't even touch a hub. So we already have a dockless model operating in the city, which is one of the reasons why we were chosen to operate to begin with. The lock and everything is built into the bike, enabling you to lock to any public bike rack, which solves all of our right-of-way problems, and it's already happening here within the city. So at the time of our launch, I hate to bring this up, but we were the deadliest metro area in the country for cyclists and for pedestrians. So we came into that with a challenge. We're a Florida-based company. We operate all over the state of Florida. The entire state has that same reputation. We knew that was going to be a challenge coming in, but we believe in the state, we believe in the city of Orlando. So we came in with a mission to help change that culture, and I think we've done a really good job in the few years that we've been operating. So now we're still in our current contract period, and this is coming before us, which has taken us a little bit back. Especially since we've been working with Transportation Department and Director Hadaway since he has come into the city pretty regularly. And it's kind of ceased our expansion plans while we're waiting the decision on what was to come over the past year. Our concern with this is it opens the market that we, a Florida-based company, took a gamble on, a pretty big gamble on. It's not cheap to bring all these bikes into the city. And again, while we're still pretty small at 200 bikes, we've delayed our expansion plans, not knowing what was going to come of our new director here, which I'm a huge fan of. No mistalking, Mr. Hadaway, great guy. But there's some challenges with that. Just in the past few months, we've seen $2 billion companies enter the U.S. market and rapidly exit. The preemption that was just spoken about by city staff, that was funded by one of those companies, so they're no longer here. In addition, Spin, who again you mentioned, sir, they're no longer operating in U.S. cities, and they're a U.S.-based company. So there's some challenges here that, while this research started a year ago, we've seen the market change drastically in the past 3 to 4 months. So in other markets, again, sir, you mentioned New York, DC, Chicago. Those are all run by Lyft, the bike share and ride share operator. Those cities have elected to protect those investments while we figure out what this dockless bike share means. So they're doing their pilots in other neighborhoods, which is fantastic. So we're getting the test and the availability of having bikes more places in the city while protecting the business model that has proven to work in the years past. So ours being included in that. So again, we've delayed continued to delay expansion plans, waiting to see what transportation wanted to do in the angle that they're taking. But we're willing to work with the city to deploy dockless if the technology is really what was being sought after here. We've got a hopper technology that we're able to deploy, which includes e-bikes and scooters. One benefit, like the current system, is they lock to existing racks. Again, that right-of-way issue being a big one that we've seen across the country and across the world. So what I'm requesting of you all is that we take a breath. We're re-examining the long-term economics of these venture capital-backed companies. One that in the past few months has proven very difficult to operate gargantuan scale systems with $1 per ride fees, or at the least protect the investment made that my company took making a gamble on one of the more dangerous places in the country to operate, because we were taking we joined forces with you all. We want to change the city, and I'm sad to say failure to do this will put our Florida-based company out. Juice Bike Share will have the nail in the coffin. So I thank you for your time, and just hope you do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's see. We're back. Did we have a motion?
Yes.
Let's make one.
Yes.
Second.
We already had a motion.
Okay. Okay. All right, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so the motion carries. Okay, that concludes the official business of the Orlando City Council for today, but we have a lot of general appearance requests, so we will get to those.